Hey, what's up everybody, TCJ Gaming here, and we're back with another Crisis on Infinite Earths video, and today we're going to discuss the craziness that went down between The Flash, Oliver Queen, and that crazy cliffhanger ending that the CW left us off with until January 14th, 2020. But before we get started today, guys, I'd like to ask you please subscribe for more daily content and drop a like on the video to show your support, and yeah, let's get into this. So the episode starts off on Earth 203 in New Gotham. Huntress is running from an antimatter wave, and unfortunately her and our Earth does eventually die. And after that we go back onto the Wave Rider, where everyone's trying to figure out who the remaining three Paragons are. And it turns out the Paragon of Honor is John, the Paragon of Love is Barry Allen, and the Paragon of Humanity is Ryan Choi. Ryan Choi is going to be the person that takes up the mantle of the Atom in the future after Ray Palmer's actor retires. Okay, so after they find out who the Paragons are, Cisco runs off to do his own thing really quick, and the Monitor stops him in the hallway, and he's like, "Hey Broseph, we need Vibe back, so yeah, here's your powers back." And Cisco is very against it, but, you know, he gets him back anyway. I don't know if he's going to continue being Vibe in the Flash, or he's going to take the cure again. I don't know. We'll find out in the future. But Vibe is a essential key role in Crisis right now, so yeah. And then we're off to Earth 666 with Constantine, Mia, and Diggle seeking out Lucifer Morningstar to help save Oliver's soul from purgatory. And boy, I am excited that my theory was spot on last episode. Now, as we all know, Lucifer was definitely in crisis. There are some YouTubers that were very doubtful that he would show up, but then there are some that were like, oh yeah, no, he could show up, definitely, because Constantine's in it, so there would be no problem to bring Lucifer Morningstar into the show, because, you know, Constantine is the demonologist, he is the master of the dark arts. Okay, so since Lucifer owes Constantine a favor for helping out Maze, he ends up giving the group a card to enter Purgatory, and once the picture fades on that card, their souls are going to be decimated. So it turns out that Lian Yu is Oliver's Purgatory, and it turns out that the soul of the person chooses their prison, and Lian Yu is what Oliver must think about being trapped in for all eternity. And also, once in Purgatory, a soul ends up losing their memories, so the group would have to jog Oliver's memory to get him back. So moving on, the Flash, Killer Frost, and Vibe go to the tunnel where Nash released the Anti-Monitor, and Pariah ends up showing up, and he's like, oh, you know, I'd help you guys get in, but I don't have any memories of when I was Nash. So Vibe ends up vibing Pariah's memories as Nash, so they could enter the Anti-Monitor's lair to stop the antimatter wave at the source. So once they enter the Anti-Monitor's lair, they find the machine which is powering and creating the antimatter waves, and they try to stop it, but the Flash, he ends up finding out that Earth 90 Flash is in there, stuck running on a treadmill which is powering the machine. They end up getting him off the treadmill, but there was a failsafe implemented that if he gets off, all the remaining Earths that have not been destroyed yet will be destroyed all at once. So then Pariah ends up disappearing for a bit, but then when he comes back, he brings back Black Lightning with him, and Black Lightning is to help absorb the antimatter, or the energy that's coming off of the machine that's causing the antimatter. He's trying to slow it down or stop it, but unfortunately that does not work all too well. So Barry ends up figuring out how to stop the antimatter wave, but it involves him vanishing. So if Barry were to run backwards on the treadmill, the antimatter wave will reverse back into the machine, destroying it and freeing Pariah and killing the Flash and making him vanish in the process. Alright, so before all this Flash stuff happens, Kara wants to use the Book of Destiny to bring Argo and all the fallen Earths back, but Kate tries to convince her not to use it because she is a Paragon and it does risk her life. She might die from using the book and bring all those Earths back, because that's a huge risk, bringing all those people back. It's basically like pulling a Tony Stark on people and like bring all the universe back from a snap. So anyway, they do get into a little argument, and she's like, oh, you know, I will stop you, Kara, if I have to. And she does have the kryptonite she got from Bruce on her. And, you know, they do eventually make up, they settle down, and Kate does end up saying, hey, I have this kryptonite from, I got from Bruce. I want you to keep it. And Kara's like, no, you might need it in the future, so just keep it on you. I trust you. Alright, so after that, Oliver is found in purgatory. He fights Diggle, Constantine, and Mia, but after like a minute of fighting, he snaps out of it, and, you know, that was very anticlimactic. I didn't really like that part. They were building up like, oh, you know, you need to jog his memories. Like, it took like a minute. That was a little bit, I didn't like that part, really. So they start talking to Oliver. They're like, oh, hey, you know, we're bringing you back from purgatory, and the card is slowly starting to fade, so they need to get out of there now. And then that's when Jim Corrigan shows up, the Spectre, and he's like, hey, Oliver, you get the mantle now. You need to become Spectre. Come with me. And Mia's like, oh, no, Dad, you gotta come with us. Come on, I want you back. Yada, yada, yada. And she's like, you know, Mia, I'm sorry, but I need to go with him. It's very important, because in the comics, Spectre does have a large, important role in defeating the Anti-Monitor. So I'd love to see how this is gonna affect Episode 4 in 2020. So Iris, Ralph, and Ray eventually find the Paragon of Humanity, Ryan Choi. They all do fill him in about what's happening with Crisis, and he starts having a little panic attack. He's like, oh, I need to go with my wife and my child. He leaves, and then they catch up to him, and they try to convince him again, and he eventually does come around, and he's like, alright, you know what, I'll tell my wife I'm gonna be late for dinner, and I'll go with you guys, and I'll help to save the universe. And I felt like this was a little bit of a weak scene. I didn't really like it, to say the least, but I do like the actor that plays Ryan Choi. He was great as the Prophet in Supernatural, and I'm really curious to see how he plays out with Ryan Choi as the Atom. Okay, now back to Barry. So Barry says his final goodbyes to Iris, and he ends up going back to the antimatter machine to stop the antimatter wave and vanish. So before he is able to get on the treadmill, Earth 90 Barry steals Earth 1 Barry's Speed Force, so he could take Earth 1 Barry's place and vanish instead of him. And he does tell Cisco to vibe him onto the treadmill, and Earth 1 Barry, he's like, oh no, I don't want to leave you behind, I don't want you to do this. But Cisco does tell him that a team leader sometimes has to make the tough calls, and he eventually agrees with him, and he sees Cisco on his point. So now, after all this buildup for years, it's Earth 90 Barry that vanishes in the Crisis instead of Earth 1 Barry. So now the antimatter wave was stopped with only one Earth left, Earth 1. So everyone's wondering where Lila is, and she does come back with no memory, and she has no clue where she's been. So then Barry has an idea, and he figures out that Pariah has been controlled by the Anti-Monitor to show up when he wants him to, and the Harbinger has been taken over and attacks our heroes. As you can see above, the Harbinger does kill the Monitor and unleashes an antimatter wave and destroys Earth 1, and it is heading for the Wave Rider. But before the Monitor does die, he does tell the Pariah, you know what to do. So then Pariah is figuring out, what does the Monitor mean? What am I supposed to do? He's thinking, the antimatter is getting closer, and then he thinks he knows what the Monitor was talking about. So as the antimatter wave hits the ship, Pariah knows where to send the 7 Paragons, and he ends up sending them to the Vanishing Point. It is a place outside of space and time, safe from the Anti-Monitor. Okay, so eventually, as you're going to see in the video above, as they're in the Vanishing Point, Superman starts glowing red until he falls down, he disappears, and he turns out he is no longer the Paragon of Truth, as Lex Luthor took a page from the Book of Destiny and switched places with him. and he wrote his name as the Paragon of Truth. And they left us there on that cliffhanger ending, and we have to wait till January 14th, 2020 to figure out what happens. And in the comics, though, Lex Luthor does have a key pivotal role on taking down the Anti-Monitor, so he does have a big role to play in episode 4, and I cannot wait to see how this all plays out in the end in 2020. Okay, so episode 3. I liked it, but some of the cameos were a bit like the whole Huntress thing. I sort of feel like they just slapped that in there like, hey, you know, boop. The Lucifer thing, it fit well with the story. Constantine and Lucifer, they have a connection, so obviously, you know, a demonologist, the master of the dark arts, he has a connection with Lucifer. He could enter purgatory and get Oliver's soul back. That made sense. Then the whole Spectre thing, I felt like it could have been a lot better. It felt rushed. A friend of mine asked me, oh, hey, I didn't understand that whole Spectre Oliver thing. I explained to him that, you know, he has a pivotal role. He has a huge role in defeating the Anti-Monitor in the comics. And, you know, after I explained to him about what the Spectre is, he's like, oh, alright, I understand now. So, yeah, that's the video, guys. Drop a like down below if you enjoyed the video. Also, comment down below what you think is going to happen in episode 4, and also give me some feedback on the video. I'd like to improve my content in the future. And also, subscribe for more daily content, and click the bell icon on the side to get notified when I upload new videos. So, yeah, guys, this has been TCJ Gaming, and I will see you guys later. Peace.